All right, it's 6:01 and we're excited to be here. Good evening, everyone. My name is Allie Leverson and I am a college advisor with Logic Prep. Thrilled to be here with you tonight to talk about our college application kickoff season. And to lead this webinar, we'll have Lauren, the director of the College Advising Journey, and Angela, one of our veteran college advisors, to talk us through the next steps and what to expect over the next season or so. We're going to start with a presentation and then we'll open it up to questions, but feel free to add your questions in the bottom of the chat area and we'll get to them at the end. That is definitely our priority. So I will turn it over to Lauren and Angela. Thank you, everyone.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. We are so glad to be here with you this evening. We know this is a very exciting and often a very stressful next few months. So we're hoping to help orient you, give you as much information as we can, and make sure you all are feeling really well prepared for the next steps. I am the director of the College Advising Journey. I've been in this field for over 20 years on both sides of the desk, college admissions, as well as the director of college advising at a private high school. I'm also the parent of two college students. So I've been through this and feel deeply everything you're about to go through.
Yes, lots of feeling, lots of emotions, lots of empathy for our families and students during this time. I know there can be a lot of questions and anxiety, so hopefully, our session tonight will bring some reassurance to you all as we start thinking about kind of what to expect and how to feel prepared. So I am a college advisor here at Logic Prep. Prior to joining kind of this side of the table and working with students and families, I was in admissions, in college admissions, specifically at USC and UC Berkeley. At USC, I was the Associate Director of Admissions at the Marshall School of Business. And I'm honestly loving this side of the work now too, and working with families kind of through this whole preparation process and getting you excited for the next stage of your life in college. And tonight, it's exciting to think about, starting this phase of the application season for our families who have been here with us at Logic Prep for a little while. This is kind of the culmination of what you all have been working with your college advisor for to prepare all the foundational pieces. Now we get to do the exciting bit of actually compiling your application together. The next however many months it is, really the application cycle starts kind of more intensively in June. So that June to December period of those 6 to 7 months, starting very soon, is when we're kind of kicking it into full gear. So we'll break it down for you, kind of what to expect month by month of tasks at hand and your goals and milestones. We'll also break down kind of the roles and responsibilities of all the support people you have in your corner here between your college advisor and your essay coach, and all the people who want the best for you. We'll talk a little bit about how we're going to work together to make that possible. This next piece might be a little bit of a review for our students, our Logic Prep students, but we wanted to kind of remind you of the most important kind of pieces as we're walking into this next phase, the application deadlines, the different types of applications. So we'll do an overview of that, and also kind of review what is a holistic admissions review, what goes into that evaluation, what are university admissions committees kind of looking for as they're reviewing your application. And then we'll kind of wrap it up with how to stand out and how to kind of leverage your strengths, your strongest qualities, and all of that great stuff as you're putting together the final pieces of your application with your college advisor and essay coach. Right, so let's get into it.
So, as for those of you who've been working with us for quite a while, as Angela said, you've been kind of building us towards this moment. A lot of our families who signed up more recently, you're not at all behind. We don't want you to worry that you haven't done some of these things yet. Most of our students are really starting this from this moment forward. Basically, what you're working on right now with your college advisors is a lot of the groundwork. I think of the application process as kind of an architectural process. We're working on the strong foundation. We're helping you do college research. We're teaching you how to do meaningful college visits, particularly when it comes to demonstrated interest. For those of you who don't know what demonstrated interest is, it is a kind of marketing category, for lack of a better word, that a lot of colleges turn to when making admission decisions, meaning that if there are a handful of students they're choosing between and they see that there's a student who's visited campus or reached out to make contact with different people at the school, they may be more likely to admit those students, assuming usually correctly that they will have a better chance of yielding them if they are admitted. Our students are also going to begin working on essays soon. We will be in touch with you within the next couple of weeks, introducing you to your essay coach, getting you scheduled for the essay process, which begins in June. We're working with our students to strategize around teacher recommendations, choosing the best teachers to ask for letters. If people have questions about how to make that determination, we're happy to address that later. We're also encouraging our students to make connections with their school counselors. Most of you, or many of you, go to smaller schools where you have access to a counselor who knows you and has a relatively personal relationship with you. Whether or not that's the case for you, it is important, since your counselor also writes a letter of recommendation for you, that you're making an effort to spend time with them and get to know them a little bit. We're also helping our students strategize around how to finish their standardized testing, ACTs, SATs, TOEFLs. Typically, it's very helpful and a little bit more calm for students if they're wrapping up their standardized testing towards the spring and summer of their junior year versus pushing that further into their senior year. Starting in midsummer, moving through early fall, we're really hoping to finalize your college list. An ideal college list with us is going to encompass 12 schools. We hope that most of those schools are going to be in what we call our match category, meaning that we have pretty high level of confidence that you are a good fit for the school in terms of your academic presentation and overall presentation, and that the school is a good fit for you. We also want all of our students to have some likely schools on their list. Those are schools that we have even greater confidence about in terms of your chances for admission. And then, of course, most students also have some of those reach schools or dream schools on their list as well. And we can talk about those categorizations later. And of course, these are really important conversations to be having with your college advisors. We're also working towards finalizing the application strategy, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later in our presentation this evening. But what we basically want to have insight into and a kind of coherent game plan around is, are you applying somewhere early decision or early action? And if so, what is the logic and really most importantly the heart behind that decision making? Our students are working hard with their essay coaches from midsummer to early fall. Ideally, by the end of August, our students have wrapped up their main common application essays and are working on supplemental essays. We're also helping prepare students for any college interviews that may be available to them. Not every college offers them, and not every student is going to be a great candidate for them. But wherever possible, we do help support and hope that our students are going to be able to do some of those interviews. From fall to January, and of course, really wrapping up the entirety of the application process. We're having our students finish all of their essays. You're continuing to work with your essay coaches on all of the supplements that need to be written. You're submitting all of your applications, ideally at least 10 days before the deadlines. This will reduce your stress level. It will make sure if there's any glitches in a system or any last minute crises that we're doing everything we can to plan thoughtfully. You're continuing to do interviews if they're offered and available for you. And of course, if our students are deferred to any early action or early decision schools or waitlisted at any regular decision schools, we're here to help support that in every way possible.
Okay, I'm glad the slide finally responded. Um, Okay, so let's talk a little bit about our roles and responsibilities of your college advisor and your essay coach who are here to partner together to support you every step of the way. You will be matched with your essay coach shortly in just the next few days or so. You'll find out who your coach is, and your coach is going to be working with you very intensively over the next several months to complete each and every one of your application essays. And there will be many, in addition to your main personal statement, your main essay of 650 words maximum. That is probably going to be the longest essay you'll write, and it will be sent to all of the universities you'll be applying to. But universities also have their own unique school-specific essays, supplements. And some colleges may require just one essay, others might require 6 to 9 to more essays of varying lengths, sometimes ranging from 100 words only to 400 words. Um, and the topics, the prompts can really just vary across the board. Your essay coach is here to not just help you craft a well-written essay, but also to help you do kind of the introspective and reflective work that's necessary to bring out your unique voice, your unique thoughts and ideas, and your life experiences. And the essay portion of your application, and we'll be talking about your Common App in just a little bit, but the essay portion of your application is really the part of the application that you have a chance to advocate for yourself. Aside from just what the universities might see on paper, just your stats on paper. So this work is incredibly important, and we really hope that you and your essay coach will build a relationship of trust, of really bonding. You'll be working so closely with them, and we really find that our students enjoy this work too. So we hope that'll be the same for you. The timeline to kind of expect is from June to December. We have some students who I know may start a little earlier than that or a little later than June, depending on your personal schedules and obligations. But generally speaking, during those 6 months, you are working with your essay coach extremely regularly. It may be, not all the way up until December if you finish all of your essays and your college application work a little early. It may extend a little bit beyond that if you need a little extra help with letters of a continued interest and such. But generally speaking, you'll be best friends. You'll be besties with your essay coach for those 6 months. Of course, your college advisor is still supporting you along the way with all of the work that Lauren just kind of mentioned in the previous slide. Um, and your advisor and your essay coach really do partner together as a team to make sure that really, every I is dotted and T is crossed to make sure that your applications are presented in a cohesive fashion that conveys, your strongest qualities um, and your full potential. What we expect of you as the main character here is to show up ready to work for all of your sessions, for your sessions with your college advisor and your essay coach. With your essay coach, there is going to be decidedly more hands-on work. and homework than maybe, with your college advisor, because you will be working on your essays, your essay drafts between sessions. Your essay coach might task you with some thought exercises to complete before the next session to help, stimulate engaging conversation and really kind of to boost the brainstorming session that you two will be doing together. And same thing with the essay drafts. We do ask that you come prepared and to not be doing necessarily line by line work, to come prepared with thoughts and questions to your essay sessions. Of course, towards the end, as you are finalizing and coming onto your penultimate draft or your final draft, there is going to be a lot of line by line work. But for the vast majority of the next few months, it is going to be a lot of ideating, a lot of conceptualizing, brainstorming, reflecting, and thinking about your life experiences and which best to kind of pick for which essay prompt for which university. There's so much work that goes beyond just the personal statement that I think a lot of students feel probably hear a little bit more about. Um, and when it comes to our student expectations as well, we do expect you to do your own work. You may be, used to maybe using ChatGPT or maybe some AI tools at school with some of your schoolwork. When it comes to your college applications, authenticity and your own unique voice, impossible to replicate, is so incredibly important. And college admissions officers have, an uncanny ability to be able to really, really sense if this is truly written by a high school student, if this is, really a unique life experience that you had. Um, and we really want to empower you to truly believe that, to believe in yourself. Um, and your essay coach is here to refine, but not to define your work. Oh, I love that. That just was off. And how we will support you, we will help you to brainstorm and to really perfect your essays. For most of our students, we will be working with you for up to 12 applications for the applications and the essays. If you're signed up for a global package, that might look like 15 applications. Um, and like I said, your college advisor and your essay coach work together in partnership to support you till the end of December, till January, till every application is submitted.
Just one kind of follow-up point.
Yes.
When we ask our students to show up ready to work, really for students, especially with essay coaches, with your college advisors as well, it is really important that you show up with your laptop to every session, a working laptop, with enough power to get through an hour-long meeting. If you're showing up on your phone, you're not going to be able to do the work you need to do successfully. So show up on time and come prepared with all of the tools you need to get through the session.
Absolutely.
I'm going to talk a little bit about parent responsibilities, and really, I think this slide probably should be titled, "What in the world can parents do?" I think, we all know that this can be a challenging experience and exciting and wonderful and everything in between. I think one of the hardest things for parents in this application process is trying to find that fine line between supporting your student and continually kind of checking on them to make sure they're actually doing everything they need to do. I think, of course, it's understandable and more than acceptable for parents to want updates on the application process. One of the things that we often recommend is that parents check in with the college advisors and set time aside to meet with the college advisor to talk about the work that's being done, to identify any areas of concern, so that those can be addressed before they become critical or destabilizing in this process. And I think it can also just be reassuring for families to hear from the college advisors that the students are doing great and they're on track and they're showing up and doing all the required work. For parents, this is no easy task, but figure out ways to manage your own stress, figure out ways perhaps to help mitigate your child's stress level as much as possible. I think kind of framing things in perspective. We know at our stage in life that the college application process is one of many challenging and exciting journeys your child will have. It is not the only challenging and exciting journey. So, really keeping that perspective, offering a lot of encouragement, offering a lot of acceptance and appreciation for your child's unique abilities. A lot of families are often fixated on rankings of schools. And one of my colleagues, Laura, wrote a wonderful blog post debunking a lot of what goes into making college rankings. Not to say there's not some merit in some of them at times, but I think helping your child focus on that good fit between them and a college can go a long way in terms of alleviating some stress. One suggestion I usually make for families doesn't have to start now, but as it gets more into the season, I think you'll appreciate this tip is to not spend every moment of every day talking about college, not every dinner conversation or car ride, but set aside select times to have these conversations and then protect the family time outside of that. Our children are overwhelmed. They're doing their best they can academically. They're doing SATs. They're perhaps working on their IB exams and AP exams. They're trying to be young and have fun. They've got a million different things going on. Where there are opportunities for you to take care of the logistics, I think that's a great way to help limit some of the stress your children are experiencing. You can easily book some of the travel and the college tours and visits. I think it's often overlooked, but really crucially important that your child know how to practice good, wise self-care when they get to college, how to do their own laundry, how to live in a very small dorm room with another person, how to make responsible personal health and life choices, and of course, how to handle a budget if there is going to be one for them in a college environment. And just a reminder that your college advisor is here to offer support throughout this process, and you can always reach out to me directly. I'm more than happy to meet with families at any point for any reason.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about application deadlines. They are fast approaching, they're around the corner. Um, we have a few examples here, and I think we're all kind of familiar with the early decision and early action um, uh, categories, but let's do a little bit of a review, especially between the differences between the one and two options and some special schools that have restrictive early action options and kind of go into what all that means. So early decision is you are where you apply early. Generally, those deadlines take place around November. And it is a binding commitment. That means that if you are accepted, if you applied for the early decision plan and you are accepted, you are required to commit and enroll. Um, as you can imagine, universities like to have some sense of security in making their admissions decisions. Knowing that if we accept a student, they are going to come is a different scenario from if we accept the student, we are not sure if they are going to come. We have a limited amount of spots we can give away. Um, and we have to be very strategic about, yield, about how many students are going to actually come if we invite them. So with applying with for early decision, there are some advantages. You might see some university stats where their admission rate for their regular decision deadline in generally January versus their early deadline, the admission rate can sometimes be significantly higher. Um, for ED1 versus ED2, ED2 is it's a same binding commitment. If you are accepted, you must attend. But the deadline is a little bit later. They generally coincide with the regular decision deadline, There are some schools where the ED2 deadline is not the same as your January deadline, but your college advisor will make sure that, all of those deadlines are accurate for you. Generally, the students who might apply ED2, who might that be? Maybe you applied ED1 and you were not admitted, but you have a second top choice school. Maybe you had a really hard time deciding between which two of your most favorite schools you would apply ED1 to. Um, and you really kind of narrowly committed to applying to one of those universities for ED1. Maybe you were either denied or deferred, then and you can decide to have your second choice school for your ED2. So when I'm working with my students, oftentimes when we're strategizing our college list, we do decide, this is going to be my ED1 school. This is going to be my close second. So my ED2 school, should I not get in, I will be applying early action, to these schools. Then that's part of all the strategizing that I'm sure many of you are doing with your college advisors already. With early action, you
Can
are
I just,
applying.
Angela,
Oh,
I'm
yes.
just going to
Yes,
jump
please. Yeah.
in a couple quick things that I wanted to say about early decision. While there is often an admission advantage to applying early decision, that is pretty uniquely the case only for schools that you are actually in range for admission for. What that means is that if you're thinking of early decision and you're looking at early decision numbers and you see that the chances of getting into a school early are much higher, but your college advisor has helped you identify that that school is out of range for you, is a reach school or a dream school, applying early decision is not likely to impact that outcome for you. Where it wields the biggest impact and power is for the school that you are aligned with, a school that might be likely to admit you anyway. And in that circumstance, the early decision application can bump you from that maybe category into the yes category.
Yes, absolutely. And this is all part of the admissions chancing that your advisor can work on more specifically with you, knowing all of your circumstances, your academics, your profile overall. Um, but yeah, if you are if a C student is not going to get into NYU by applying ED. Okay, so for an early action, like I was saying, it is similar and different from the ED, in that the deadline may be oftentimes very very much the same. The ED1 and early action deadline can often be the same. There is no binding commitment, however. So if you are accepted at the early action application round, you just have your decision early. Many students are going to find out from their regular decision round in, let's say, March, April. But from early action, early decision, you may find out if some colleges release their admissions decisions in mid-December. And it's a wonderful gift before you go on holiday break. And other schools, may release their admissions decisions for their early rounds in January, or even early February. Either way, it's earlier than March or April, and it's really nice to be able to let out a deep breath when you start kind of getting your letters back. Um, for some of the early action schools, they also have a slightly higher admissions rate, kind of the same rules and exceptions apply that Lauren just outlined. Um, because it is non-binding, many students do choose to apply early action to as many schools on their list that offer it. Um, and your advisor and essay coach will work with you to see if that is the best strategy. If many schools on your list, let's say you have a list of 12 and 10 of those schools offer an early action round, I completely understand if you're inspired to say, well, let's apply to all 10 of those early. Why not? There's a slightly higher chance of me getting in if I'm in the earlier pool. Let's do it. But we also want to, keep in mind the amount of work that each application requires. If you are working towards, submitting your applications, your early action applications in October because you're wanting to submit them slightly ahead of the November 1st deadline, the Common App, the application platform, does not technically open for your grade for your cycle until August 1st. So you have a very tight window of just a few weeks between August 1st and let's say mid-October to complete 10 applications and produce high quality work. We will always recommend working with your essay coach and college advisor to ensure that you're submitting the best work possible. And there can be other conditions that also depend on, is this going to impact my application? If I'm participating in a big competition, in November or in December, that would, if I won, if I performed well, it would um, it would help my application. It would strengthen my application. You and your college advisor should have those conversations to decide, or with your essay coach. I'm really, really short on time to finish all 10 colleges supplements and produce high quality work in just a few weeks. You'll work with your essay coach to determine the best timeline to produce the best quality work. And if it doesn't make sense to apply early action, you don't necessarily want to force yourself into that box. You want to do what's best to, produce the strongest application possible. Now, restrictive early action is where you apply early to an earlier date. It is non-binding. However, you can only apply to one university. So that's where the restriction applies. With early action, you are able to apply to as many colleges, like all 10, like I was saying. Early decision, obviously, because it is a binding commitment, you can only apply to one school early decision, and it's the same thing for restrictive early action. This college will be the one and only college you would apply to for early action. There are a few universities that kind of fit into this category that may include Harvard, Stanford, some of the more selective universities. So you really want to be very thoughtful about your decision. If you do decide to apply anywhere for early decision or for restrictive early action, you do want to make sure that that is the best decision for you. So, an important conversation to have with your advisor. And then, sorry, Lauren, were you going to say something?
I was just going to say the only exception to the restrictive early action is you can apply to state colleges that provide early action. You just can't apply to any other private
Privates.
universities.
Yes.
But it is very, very limiting.
Yeah. And then finally, our regular decision. Generally, the deadlines fall around early January, depending on your college list. It may be a little bit different from that, but that is going to be your general timeline for the vast majority of schools. Non-binding, and you have until May 1st, the national college deadline, to make a decision. So this time next year, you're going to be facing some big questions and some big decisions to make. But all exciting. Okay.
I'm going to try to cover this quickly because I know we're talking longer than we wanted to, and we want to leave a lot of time for questions at the end. As Angela said, the common application, which is kind of the ubiquitous application platform that most of you will be using for most of your schools, goes live on August 1st. So while some of you may be working on the common application with your advisors now, you're not working on the school-specific supplements because that's really the component that updates and changes from year to year. The common application is gathering a lot of different information so that colleges can make careful and thoughtful decisions. Colleges are not looking to admit a class of students who all look the same and talk the same and have the same background and the same interests. They're looking to attract a diverse student body. So they're asking about your demographic information. What is your nationality? What is your citizenship, your ethnicity, languages you speak, gender identity? They're asking questions about your school. They're looking at the school or schools you go to or have gone to. What curriculum are you in within that school? Is it IB? Is it AP? If your school offers that. In other words, what academics are you showing given what's available in your school setting? And how well are you doing in those classes? They're also looking at kind of thematic elements in your curriculum. If you're interested in communication, and your school offers some fun electives around this area, are you taking advantage of them? If you're talking about being an engineer and you haven't taken any advanced math classes, they're going to notice that. So they're looking kind of at the themes of the academics. They are definitely looking at testing. While we'll talk about this a little bit further on, but um, testing during COVID, most colleges went SAT and ACT optional. Pretty much all colleges did because of the difficulty in finding testing sites. Most colleges now are reverting to requiring either the SATs or the ACTs. So they are definitely looking at that testing in terms of how it measures up with what they are wanting to see in their admitted class. For our international students, even if you go to an English language high school, we highly recommend that all of our students take the TOEFL because many colleges will require the TOEFL for non-native and non-native English speakers and non-US citizens, regardless of the language of instruction at your high school. They're looking at your activities. Who are you? How do you spend your time? What are you passionate about? Are you someone who takes a lot of leadership? Are you someone who works behind the scenes to help support other people? They're learning through these extracurricular activities and your role with these extracurricular activities, the impact you might have on that college community. They are looking very carefully at your counselor and teacher recommendations. We talked about that a little bit before. Please let your counselor, your college advisor help you identify good teachers because these can make a huge difference in the application process. The personal statement, the main essay that goes to every college on the Common Application, is crucially important. And then you have school-specific questions, some short answer, some longer essays. Every college has at least questions, if not pretty significant essays, as part of their supplements. And those are all components of the application that are being evaluated.
And all of those components kind of comprise the holistic review process. So the why behind all of those pieces, all of those questions that they are asking you, they are trying to get a sense of your unique qualities. How are you different from your peers? They're trying to get a sense of your values, your personality, and your identity. Um, College admissions officers have a very um, difficult task of building what they attempt, to create, which is a well-balanced class. And a well-balanced class means students who are different from one another, who have had different life experiences, different perspectives. Um, when you go to college, you will learn as much from your peers as you will from your professors in the classroom. And colleges know that. So they want to build a great environment for you to be able to learn from your peers, from the friends you'll make, from the experiences you'll have, from the connections that you'll build that you just were not exposed to in high school. So they take that job very seriously, and they do, their utmost work to try to read between the lines of your application, try to really pay attention to your words in your essays, and in the activities that you choose to spend your time on, to understand what is important to you, and how will that help to build this well-balanced class. So when admissions officers are reviewing your application, they are considering you within your academic setting. So that means, what resources and opportunities were available to you that you did take advantage of. What were the things that you did to kind of go up above and beyond, to take the extra initiative, to make the extra effort, um, and to go the extra mile? Colleges are admissions officers want to admit students who will not just academically succeed and thrive at their institution. They want to admit students who are going to contribute to a lively campus of very engaged students who are going to want to interact with the other students as well. Um, and Lauren just kind of mentioned, the recommendation letters from your teachers and your school counselor. This is in addition to a school profile that universities receive that have some information about your school. Things like what types of courses are offered at your high school, what are, your peers generally speaking kind of involved in, what is your school's, what is the story of your school? And they do use this information in addition to what's included in your recommendation letters to try to understand what type of context that you were succeeding and thriving in. Your letters of recommendation can really speak to and add a perspective and add an element to your application that it would be difficult for you to provide yourself. Your school counselor will often try their best to include information about how you are involving or succeeding or thriving in the school campus. Your school teachers may speak about your work ethic, their proximity to you over the years. If they've taught you even more than once, that's great. And also their knowledge of your peers. So your recommendation letters can be incredibly important. Finally, institutional priorities that are completely out of your control. You probably will not even know what the institutional priorities are. Um, and I like to tell my students a story of, an admissions committee who was comparing two very, very similar applications and had an enormously difficult time making that decision. And ultimately, what came down to their decision of, admitting one student between the two was one student played the violin, the other played the tuba, and they had their tuba player that year was graduating, so they were going to have a spot open up. That is an institutional priority for that particular college. And you can kind of think of that in many different scenarios across an institution. There are ultimately, so many different examples of what an institution might need if they're trying to balance out their class, what major you're applying to, and what the enrollment looks like there, what activities you're planning to get involved in, and what need that they have. So those are some examples of institutional decision-making kind of factors that you would honestly have no knowledge of and no control over. Um, and those are sometimes at the end of the day, something that might affect, an admissions decision.
So I'm going to speak very quickly about this so we can get to our questions. But this is counterintuitive, but the best way to stand out is to be genuine. I think there is a myth in the college application process that it's the perfect, well-rounded students who are getting admitted. Sure, there are perfect, well-rounded students getting admitted, although I'm not sure what a perfect student is. But really, what you're trying to do to stand out is to make a personal connection with the reader of your application. And the most impactful and easiest way to do that is to be genuine, to be vulnerable, to stay true to your own voice and your own passions. Colleges are looking for depth. They are not looking for students who've done just kind of the surface level of every different club or activity. They're much more compelled by students who've allowed themselves to develop a real, thoughtful, relevant personal interest in something and explore that, to bring their unique talents and interests. I have read, I'm sure Angela is the same. We've probably between us read 100,000 college applications. I don't remember a single thing about what a student's grades or scores were, but I still remember their stories. I remember their warmth or their humor or the story they were trying to share. And that's why the work with the essay coach is so, so crucially important. I think there are many elements of this slide that are important to read and really understand, but the most important thing to get across is be true to yourself in this process in identifying the schools that are a good fit for you personally, for whom you also are a good fit. And what are the things that you truly care about, and how are you communicating those things in the application process? Um, Apologies. I know we've talked longer than we wanted to, and we will try to get through your questions and to your questions just as quickly as possible.
Thank you, Lauren and Angela. So if you do have questions, please put them in the question and answer box. It's a question mark and a bubble, and we're happy to get to your questions. But Angela, just to kick things off, we had one pop up when you were going over the different deadlines. And the question is, and it's one that I get very commonly with students, can you apply to school early decision and early action if the school that's early action is not restrictive?
Yes, yes, you can. So, what many students will do is apply to just one school for early decision, just in case you get in, and then you've got to go. And then maybe a handful of early action schools as well. It is quite a lot of work to try to complete in, like I said earlier, just a few weeks. And generally, if it is your early decision school, it's probably going to be the school that you're doing your best for. You're trying to, create and produce your most perfect work. And so, your early action schools, yes, you can apply to as many as you'd like for that early deadline. It's just the early decision where you can only apply to one, or the restrictive early action as well.
Thanks, Angela. And then one other question, and I'm going to add a little light to this. I know there's a lot of questions and uncertainty around testing policies right now as schools are making new announcements here or there if testing will be optional for next year. As you're looking at a student's testing and you're working through that with them, when would you say is the last chance they really have to take an SAT or an ACT?
That's a great question. I think it's challenging to finalize a college list before having some certainty around the testing, unless we're working with the assumption that a student might be test optional, just because colleges are publishing data about admitted student profiles based on academics and based on testing. Having said that, if you're applying somewhere early decision or early action, really September would be kind of the latest. We do have students who take testing as late as in October. That's fine for students who may not necessarily want to use that testing for an early action or early decision school. It doesn't give you a lot of time to get the tests back and then make the determination about whether to share them with the colleges or not.
I'll add one thing to that too, is to make sure that you and your college advisor are going to each university's website, each of your schools on your list, to check and see if they have different policies. I know some colleges will say you can take it in December. If you're applying regular decision, you can take it in December and send it to us, and others will say, nope, November is the last one that we'll accept. So definitely make sure you're checking the fine print. And honestly, this goes to not just your testing choices, but you do want to check the fine print for all of your application requirements for your universities.
Thank you, Lauren and Angela. Any other questions? We'd love to have them in the chat. Or Lauren and Angela, anything you didn't get a chance to cover fully, we can touch on right now.
No, I don't
Okay.
think so. I think I'm just excited for all of you to start on your applications, your essays.
Yes, we are all so excited and we really appreciate you joining us here tonight. If you do have additional questions, by all means, like reach out to your college advisor immediately. You can always reach out to Lauren. Our team is very open and collaborative. We're always working together and we can connect with one another about questions we might not be able to answer and someone else can. So thank you again. If you have another parent or student you'd like to watch the webinar and they didn't get the chance to watch tonight, we are recording this. We'll put it on their website and they can go ahead and watch it afterwards. So thank you again. We really appreciate your time and we'll talk to you all